New York, Human Rights Watch called on Union and World Bank to address Afghanistan's collapsed economy and broken banking system to prevent widespread famine. Afghanistan's economy and social services are collapsing, with Afghans throughout the country already suffering acute malnutrition, said John Sifton, Asia Advocacy Director at Human Rights Watch. Humanitarian aid is critical, but given the crisis, governments, the Union, and international financial institutions need to urgently adjust existing restrictions and sanctions affecting the country's economy and banking sector. Following the Taliban's August 2021 takeover of Afghanistan, millions of dollars in lost income, spiking prices, illiquidity crisis, and shortages of cash have deprived much of the population of access to food, water, shelter, and health care, Human Rights Watch said. The Union World Food Programme has issued multiple warnings of worsening food insecurity and the risk of large-scale deaths from hunger throughout Afghanistan in coming months. Several media have reported that families lacking money and food are selling their possessions and seeking to flee the country overland. Impoverished Afghans facing malnutrition have described desperate attempts to buy or forage for food, and the deaths of people unable to leave. The financial crisis has especially affected women and girls, who face disproportionately greater obstacles to obtaining food, healthcare, and financial resources. The Taliban bans that are keeping women from most paid jobs have hit households in which women were the main earners the hardest. Even in areas in which women are still allowed to work, such as education and healthcare, they may be enabled to comply with Taliban requirements for a male family member to escort women to and from work, read Aero report. Numerous banking officials and humanitarian agency staff has told Human Rights Watch that most Afghan banks cannot cover withdrawals by private actors and aid organizations. Even when funds are transmitted electronically into banks, the lack of cash means that money is not physically available and therefore cannot flow into the country's economy, the report added. To address Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis, Human Rights Watch recommends that governments, the Union, the World Bank, and the Taliban should work to reach an agreement to allow the Afghan central bank access to the international banking system. As an initial step, the Treasury Department and other financial authorities should issue licenses and guidance to allow the central bank to engage in limited settlement transactions with outside private banks so that the bank can pay its World Bank dues and process or settle incoming dollar deposits from legitimate private depositors, such as UNICEF, the Union Development Program, remittance banks, and other legitimate actors, it added further. Tone of generosity and humanitarian pledges can't overcome the stark reality that union agencies, humanitarian groups, and the Afghan diaspora cannot send assets to a banking system that isn't functioning, and account holders in Afghanistan can't withdraw cash that isn't there, Sifton said. Adblock test why?